The sound came just after midnight, a faint knocking from the second floor of the old orphanage. 3 slow taps, then silence. Mara froze at the doorway, her flashlight trembling in her hand. The building had been abandoned for decades, its windows boarded, its halls caked in soot and rot. Yet the sound came again, clearer this time, like tiny knuckles against wood. She whispered, "Hello?" The echo returned, her voice distorted, thinner, younger, almost playful. The beam of light swept across the peeling walls, catching faded murals of smiling children, their painted eyes scratched out. A cold draft carried the faint smell of damp fabric and something else, something like burned hair. Her radio hissed with static. Then through the crackle, a voice, small, trembling. "Miss." "It's cold down here." Mara's pulse spiked. She turned the volume down, but the whisper continued even with the device switched off. A door at the end of the hallway creaked open by itself. Just a sliver, enough to reveal a slanted shadow on the floor, shaped like a child standing perfectly still. Mara's flashlight flickered once, twice, then died. In the dark, she heard them. Dozens of soft, barefoot steps moving closer, circling her. Then a whisper, inches from her ear. "Do you remember us?" The power came back in brief, stuttering bursts, flashes of light that painted the orphanage in fragments. For an instant, Mara saw the corridor empty. The next, it was filled with shadows that looked like children standing shoulder to shoulder. Then darkness swallowed them whole again. She stumbled backward, heart hammering, until her shoulder hit the cold wall. Her breath came in shallow bursts, the air thick with dust and decay. The silence afterward was worse than the voices. It pressed in, heavy and absolute, as though the building itself was holding its breath. She flicked her flashlight twice. Nothing. Her voice, small and cracked, broke the dark. "Control. This is Field Agent Mara Holt. I'm inside St. Vincent's. EMF reading spiked at 0207. I think I..." Static. Then, faintly, a child's giggle through the receiver. She dropped it. Outside, the storm battered the building like it was trying to wake the dead. Rain streaked down the boarded windows, leaking through cracks and leaving trails on the dusty floor. The orphanage had been sealed for 40 years, but the city still whispered about it. The fires, the missing children, the matron who was never found. That was why Mara was here. The Bureau called it a historical site. Re-examination. But she knew the truth. This was one of the old cases, the ones buried under phrases like inconclusive and equipment malfunction. She steadied her breathing and lifted her camera, its dim red light cutting through the dark. The lens caught glimpses, decayed cribs, shredded curtains, and something carved into the plaster near the stairwell. "We stayed." The words looked fresh. A drop of water fell from the ceiling, landing on her wrist. Except it wasn't water. It was warm. She rubbed her hand, her skin slick with something darker. When she aimed her camera up, she froze. Tiny fingerprints lined the ceiling, dozens of them, smeared in red. Her throat tightened. "Jesus, what happened here?" The sound of a music box answered her, a slow, broken lullaby echoing from upstairs. Mara raised the camera and began to climb. Each step creaked like it might snap. Her boots left prints in a fine layer of dust, and behind her, faintly, smaller prints followed. Barefoot, lighter, impossibly recent, she reached the landing. The hallway ahead was lined with doors, each labeled with a child's name tag, long faded and curling. Sophie, Thomas, Ella, each door slightly ajar, as if waiting to be opened again. A faint sob came from one of the rooms. Mara tightened her grip on the camera. "Hello? Is someone here?" No answer. She pushed the first door open. Inside, the wallpaper peeled like skin. The small iron beds stood in perfect rows. And on every pillow, a doll's head, cracked porcelain faces staring up with hollow eyes, their mouths stitched shut with black thread. A gust of wind slammed the door behind her. She turned, too fast, and the camera slipped, hitting the floor. When she picked it up again, the screen flickered. The static formed the vague outline of a child sitting cross-legged in the middle of the room. The image wasn't there in real life. "Only through the camera," Mara whispered. "Who are you?" The camera glitched. The child's head twitched toward her. Then, in a whisper too low for the mic but somehow inside her head, You came back. The air thickened. Every doll's head turned toward her at once. The faint sound of threads snapping. She bolted out, nearly tripping on the threshold. The hallway seemed longer now, warped, bending in ways that shouldn't be possible. Every bulb above her flickered in rhythm with her pulse. Her radio came alive again, faint voices overlapping. She's watching. Don't open the red door. Mara stopped. Halfway down the corridor was a door unlike the rest, not labeled, not decayed. Its paint was a deep, dried crimson. The red door, the whispers stopped. Even the storm outside fell silent. Something shifted behind the door, a scrape, a drag, like nails across wood. Then softly, Mara. She stepped back, trembling. No one alive should know her name. Her camera screen flickered again. The timestamp froze at 02:13 a.m., and in the grainy static, she saw herself, standing in the same hallway. But behind her, the figure of the matron, pale and smiling, one hand resting gently on a child's shoulder. The power cut again. Darkness swallowed her whole. Mara woke to the sound of rain hammering the roof. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. The damp air, the smell of mold and iron. Then it returned all at once. The orphanage, the red door, the whisper of her name. She sat up from the dusty floor, her flashlight dim but still working. Her watch had stopped again. 2:13 a.m., frozen time. The camera in her bag blinked, the low battery light pulsing like a heartbeat. She replayed the last clip. The grainy footage showed her standing in the hallway, eyes wide, mouthing words she didn't remember saying. Then, in the background, a blurred face peering around the red door. A child's face, grinning. She whispered to herself, "This can't be real." But the air around her disagreed, a low hum vibrating through the floorboards. As if the entire building were breathing, the whispering files on the first floor. She found the records room, door barely hanging on its hinges. Old files lay scattered like bones across the floor. Birth certificates, adoption forms, medical records. She crouched, brushing away dust to reveal one file still intact. St. Vincent's Children's Home, 1976. Inside, pages were marked with red ink, names crossed out violently. She read aloud, her voice barely a whisper. Resident 12A, Sophie Miller. Status, adopted December 12th. Then, underlined twice, returned another file. Resident 9B, Thomas. Status, behavioral incident. Removed from records. Every name carried the same fate. Crossed out, erased, or returned. She turned the last page and froze. Her own name was there. Resident 21C, Mara Holt. Adopted 1986. Her breath caught. I was here. The air grew colder. Her camera clicked on by itself, the lens pointing toward the corner of the room. The static cleared just enough to show small outlines standing there. 4, maybe 5 children, holding hands. She stepped back. "Why are you showing me this?" A little girl's voice replied, faint and trembling. "Because you forgot." The camera fell from her hands. The caretaker's journal. Mara found the matron's office down the hall, door sealed shut with rotted boards. She pried them loose, coughing as dust exploded around her. Inside, the office looked untouched. The smell of lavender still clung to the air. A portrait of Matron Evelyn Crane hung crooked above the desk, her pale face painted with a smile that didn't reach the eyes. On the desk lay a leather-bound journal, edges burnt, but most pages legible. She began to read. December 3rd, 1975. The city has closed our funding again. They say the children will be relocated, but I can't let them go. They belong here. They're mine. December 5th. Thomas won't stop crying. He says he hears voices in the walls. I told him it's the house settling. The house loves us. December 10th. The priest refused to come after dark. He said the orphanage is not a place for blessings anymore. I burned his letter, December 12th. The ceremony is ready. They will never take my children from me again. Mara turned the page, but it was stuck. Dried red seeped through the binding, pages fused together. She forced them apart, revealing a pressed photograph between them. The children, all lined up smiling, and at the far end, a small girl, her younger self. Her knees weakened. She stared at the photo, her voice shaking. I don't remember this. Then, a whisper from behind. That's That's because you left us. Mara spun around. No one there. Only the portrait on the wall, now hanging straight. The journal flipped open again by itself. One final entry written in a different hand, shaky, childlike. She promised we'd never be alone again. The return. The storm outside had stopped. A strange calm blanketed the orphanage, the kind that follows a scream. Mara wandered through the halls, her flashlight cutting swaths through the dark. Everywhere she looked, time felt wrong. Children's drawings now glowed faintly on the walls, moving slightly when she looked away. Laughter echoed from empty rooms, soft and wet, like something imitating joy. In the playroom, she found toys scattered across the floor, still warm to the touch. A rocking horse swayed slowly, though there was no wind. She whispered, "What do you want from me?" A voice, closer now, clearer. To finish the game, the chalkboard on the far wall began to write by itself. One last night. Mara's flashlight dimmed, revealing faint shapes around her. Children, translucent and pale, forming a ring. Their heads tilted in unison. A girl stepped forward, eyes wide and hollow. "We waited for you." Mara stumbled back. I was just a baby when I left." "You promised," the girl whispered. "She said you'd come back for us." The red door creaked open down the hall. A gust of cold swept through, pulling the dust toward it like a slow inhale. Mara's radio crackled to life again. "Field Agent Holt, come in." But the voice wasn't from control. It was her own recorded runner from years ago. "Experiment log 42B, subject exposure at St. Vincent's. Test complete." Her knees buckled. Memories clawed back through static. She hadn't just been a child here. She'd been sent back years later. Part of a classified psychological study on trauma imprint environments. The children weren't ghosts. They were echoes. Psychic remnants bound to the night of the fire, and she had triggered them again. The matron from the red door came light, faint, flickering like candle flame. Mara stepped closer, whispering, "Evelyn Crane." "I know you're here." The door opened fully this time. Inside lay the matron's quarters, walls lined with children's drawings of her, all smiling, all bleeding from the eyes. In the center stood the matron herself, perfectly still. Her skin was gray, her eyes deep hollows. Yet when she spoke, her voice was calm, almost kind. "You grew up so well, my dear." Mara's breath hitched. "You're not real." The matron tilted her head. "Not real? I gave you life. You all did this to me. You left me here with their screams. I didn't know. You forgot." The matron stepped forward, each movement echoing like a door slamming somewhere far away. "The Bureau wanted to see how much horror a child could carry. They called it research. I called it family." Mara shook her head, tears burning. "You killed them." "No, I kept them safe." The matron's smile widened, splitting her cheeks slightly. Safe in the only place they'd never leave. The walls began to pulse, photographs melting into shadows. The children's voices rose in unison, chanting softly. "Stay with us, Mara, stay!" Mara screamed, slamming the door shut. But the red paint began to spread across the wood like blood through fabric, seeping outward into the hall. She ran, heart hammering, but every hallway looped back to the same corridor. Every turn ended with the same door waiting, wide open. Inside, the matron's whisper followed her, echoing from nowhere and everywhere. "You can't leave family behind." The realization Mara collapsed by a window, gasping. The boards outside were gone, only blackness beyond the glass, endless and shifting. She pressed her palm against it, and it rippled like water. Through it, faint shapes moved, children running, laughing, then burning away like smoke. Her radio clicked again, her own voice replaying on a loop. "Subject 21C exhibits high emotional resonance. Reentry phase initiated." She whispered, broken. "I wasn't here to investigate. I was here to remember." The whisper stopped. Then a single voice, the same small girl. "Do you remember us now?" Mara turned. The children stood in the doorway, silent. The matron behind them, smiling. The walls bled red again. The air grew thick with the smell of smoke. Somewhere deep within the orphanage, the lullaby began once more. Slow, cracked, eternal. Mara whispered through tears, "I remember." The matron's hand reached forward, fingers trembling. "Then you can come home." The light went out. The darkness didn't feel empty anymore. It pulsed, slow and rhythmic, like something alive. Mara's lungs burned as she stumbled through the orphanage's shifting halls. The floorboards groaned beneath her boots, walls breathing in and out, the air thick with smoke and whispers. Every step forward seemed to drag her deeper, not toward escape, but into the orphanage's heart. Her flashlight sputtered, then caught, a thin, trembling beam slicing through the dark. The light landed on the main hall. The portraits along the walls, once of smiling children, now stared at her with hollow sockets, eyes burned out of the paint. Their faces stretched slightly as though pressed from behind the canvas. A single candle burned on the floor ahead, wax dripping upward instead of down. The matron's voice seeped from the walls, soft and melodic. "You should never have left. Little one." Mara pressed her back against the wall, shaking. "You're not real." "Oh, I'm very real," the matron replied, her tone warm, almost motherly. "You made me real when you remembered." The ceiling cracked above. Soot and ash drifted down like black snow. Then, a click. Mara's camera turned itself on again. The small red light blinked in rhythm with her heartbeat. The screen showed a live feed, but not of her surroundings. Instead, it showed the children's dormitory, perfectly restored. Beds made, curtains white, sunlight pouring through the windows, and the children, alive, laughing, playing tag across the room. Mara whispered, "No." The image shifted. The same children now stood motionless, faces blank, eyes blackened. Smoke seeped through the floorboards, rising around their ankles. One by one, they turned to face the lens. The camera's audio caught faint whispers layered together. "Stay, stay, stay." Then the matron appeared behind them, one hand on a child's shoulder. Her smile widened, showing too many teeth. "Come home, Mara." The burning room, the walls trembled. A deep rumble rolled beneath her feet, the sound of something waking. The hallway stretched, elongated. The candle flame flickered violently, guttering into smoke. Mara's flashlight failed. Only the faint light of her camera screen guided her. She turned a corner and then froze. The playroom was burning. Not fire, not heat, but light, bright and wrong, bending around her. Toys melted into the floor, forming faces that screamed soundlessly. The air rippled, heavy with the weight of memory, and there, in the center, stood the children. Dozens of them. Their outlines flickering between living and dead. One moment giggling, the next charred silhouettes. Mara stepped forward, voice trembling. "You're not real. None of this is real." A small boy stepped out of the group. His skin was pale, veins dark as ink. "You promised we'd never be alone." "I was a child," she whispered. "I didn't understand." "You understood enough." The matron's voice echoed through the burning room, louder now, filling every corner. "They waited for you. They believed you'd come back. And now you have." The children's eyes turned white. Their mouths opened, but no sound came, just a rush of cold air that extinguished every flame. Darkness again. Mara's breath came ragged. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Then faintly, she heard the music box, the same lullaby from before. Its melody reversed and warped. The children began to move, stepping closer, their feet making no sound on the ash-covered floor. The matron's silhouette emerged behind them, her form now towering, body twisting, limbs too long, face flickering between human and shadow. Her voice layered, part whisper, part scream. "Say it, my dear. Say you remember." Mara's voice broke. "I remember." The air cracked, like glass shattering. For a split second, everything froze. Flashback. The night of the fire flames licked the walls of the orphanage. Screams filled the air. Mara was small again, no older than 6, clutching a doll as smoke poured through the hallways. The matron stood in the doorway, calm amid the chaos, holding a candle. "Don't be afraid," she whispered. "You're just going home," the older children cried, pulling at her hands, but she didn't move. She only smiled as the ceiling collapsed behind her. Mara remembered being dragged outside by a firefighter, the heat searing her skin. She'd looked back and seen the windows full of faces, the other children, pressed against the glass. Watching her leave, she'd heard the matron's voice in the flames. "You will come back for them." The memory snapped. Mara gasped, back in the present, lying on the floor of the burning playroom. The walls were alive again, pulsing with that same red light. The matron towered above her, whispering gently, "You did this to us." Mara's tears streaked through the ash on her face. "No, I didn't start the fire, but you ended it." the matron said, crouching down, her eyes hollow and endless. You survived. That's all it takes. Survival is betrayal. The children surrounded her, faces flickering like dying film. Mara raised her trembling hand, clutching the camera. If you're trapped here, then I can release you. The matron smiled, a slow, splitting grin. Release us? My dear, you're part of us. The collapse, the orphanage began to shake. Glass shattered. Walls peeled apart, revealing layers of the same rooms beneath. Infinite, recursive, folding in on themselves. Mara stumbled through the distortion, the world tilting sideways. The camera's feed glitched violently, flashes of her as a child. Her face burned into static, overlaying the present. The children screamed, their voices merging into one endless wail. The matron raised her hands, and the air thickened, gravity bending. Furniture rose, spinning around her like a storm. Stay, the matron whispered. Mara screamed back, no, and hurled the camera toward her. The device exploded in light, a blinding white flash that cut through the red haze. The children's forms disintegrated into dust, their cries fading into silence. The matron screamed, not in pain, but fury. Her voice split into dozens of tones. You can't erase what's written in blood. The walls buckled inward. Fire roared to life, real this time, consuming everything. Mara ran, coughing through the smoke. Every door she passed led to another version of the same hall. The orphanage folded into itself, burning from all sides. Behind her, the matron's voice chased her, now fractured, desperate. You were mine. The final confrontation. She reached the chapel at the building's center, its doors half burned, its crucifix melted into a twisted shape. Inside, the pews were overturned, and the altar was nothing but blackened wood. On the far wall, someone had carved a message into the stone. No child ever leaves. Mara stumbled to the altar, clutching her side. Her vision blurred from smoke and tears. The matron emerged from the shadows, her body wreathed in fire, eyes white and endless. You remember everything now, she said, voice calm again. So tell me, Mara Holt, will you abandon them twice? Mara looked around. The children were there too, silent, waiting. Her voice trembled. If I stay, will they be free? The matron tilted her head. They'll never be alone again. Mara closed her eyes. For a moment she heard nothing but the crackle of fire and the faint, broken lullaby. Then, she smiled faintly. Then I'll stay. The matron's grin softened into something almost human. She reached out, placing her burning hand against Mara's cheek. Good girl. The flames rose higher. The roof caved in. Everything went white. Aftermath. When the rescuers came the next morning, they found the orphanage in ruins, burned to its foundations. No survivors, but the footage recovered from Mara's camera was strange. It ended before the fire, the last frame showing her standing in the chapel, surrounded by children, all smiling. And faintly, over the static, one voice whispered, "Thank you." The fire at St. Vincent's burned for 9 hours. By dawn, only the stone foundation and a single chimney were left standing. The morning fog clung to the ruins like a shroud. Detective Ray Nolan stood near the perimeter tape, coffee steaming in his trembling hand. The smell of wet ash and charred wood hung in the air, and beneath it, faintly, something sweeter, like singed sugar. He didn't like it. Fires in old buildings always carried ghosts, even when no one believed in them. A firefighter approached, helmet tucked under one arm. We found one body so far, female, late 30s, maybe early 40s. Nolan sighed, rubbing his eyes. That'll be her. Agent Holt, Bureau? Yeah, Historical Research Unit. Don't ask. They dig up old cases, say it's about closure. The firefighter hesitated. Thing is, we found her in the chapel, not burned. Just, he paused, choosing the word carefully. Still, like she was asleep. No burns, no smoke in her lungs. Just gone. Nolan frowned. Any sign of others? The man shook his head. None. But we did find something strange. He handed over a small metal object wrapped in cloth. The melted remains of a camera. The footage back at the station, technicians managed to pull fragments from the memory card. Most of it was static, bursts of white light and distorted audio. But near the end, something came through clearly. A timestamp reading 02:13 a.m. The video showed Mara standing in a long hallway. Her eyes were glassy, fixed on something unseen. Children's laughter echoed faintly behind her. Then she spoke, voice soft, almost calm. "They're not forgotten anymore." The screen cut to black. Nolan leaned back in his chair. "Jesus Christ." The technician looked uneasy. "There's more. It's short, but you should see it." The next clip began with the camera lying on the floor. The room was dark except for one flickering light. And then, a small hand reached into frame, pale and clean. "To pick it up," a child's voice whispered. "We'll take care of her now." End of recording. The investigation. The Bureau closed the case within a week. The official report read, Agent Mara Holt perished during an independent investigation into St. Vincent's Orphanage. Presumed cause: structural collapse due to lightning strike. No foul play detected. They didn't mention the voices on the tape. They didn't mention that the building's foundation showed signs of having burned long ago, decades before the supposed fire. But Nolan couldn't let it go. He returned to the site 2 weeks later, alone. The ruins were cold, the ash turned to slick mud. No bird sang, no wind moved. The world seemed to hold its breath again, just as it had in the story Mara told on that tape. He walked through what was left of the chapel. The air felt heavier inside the broken walls, like the echo of a scream too old to fade. On the stone floor, beneath a layer of soot, he saw faint markings, chalk maybe. He crouched down and brushed them away. Letters, words, one last night. His breath hitched. Behind him, wood cracked, a splintering sound from somewhere deeper in the ruins. He turned sharply, flashlight cutting through the dust. Nothing. Then, a laugh. Small, high, playful. Nolan froze. The light landed on something half buried in the dirt. A porcelain doll's head. Cracked but smiling. Its eyes, painted black circles, seemed to follow the beam. He swallowed hard. "All right, Mara," he whispered. "What the hell did you find here?" The orphanage returns. That night, Nolan dreamed of St. Vincent still standing. Lights in every window. Children's silhouettes moving through the halls. A woman's voice hummed a lullaby he didn't recognize but couldn't forget. He woke before dawn, drenched in sweat, the melody still echoing in his ears. By the third night, he began hearing it while awake. Soft, distant, always just beyond the edge of silence. He told himself it was guilt, residual horror from the fire. But every time he passed a playground, the laughter of real children carried a strange distortion, as though the sound wasn't theirs alone. And once, only once, he swore he saw a figure reflected in his car mirror, a woman in an old-fashioned gray dress, standing behind him in the back seat, smiling. When he turned, the seat was empty. A new beginning next, months later. The Bureau approved reconstruction of the site. A charity group announced plans to reopen St. Vincent's as a modern youth shelter. Local papers praised the idea, a place of healing built on the ashes of tragedy. During the groundbreaking ceremony, one of the volunteers unearthed something in the soil, an old photograph, preserved in the mud. It showed a line of children outside the orphanage, smiling, holding hands. On the back, written in faded ink, "We stayed." The volunteer laughed softly. Creepy. He pocketed it. That night he didn't come home. Epilogue. The new St. Vincent's opened 2 years later. Bright walls, glass windows, modern security systems, everything the old one never had. The city called it progress, but strange things began to happen again. Children complained of whispers in the vents. Toys moved during the night. One boy said a woman came into his room and sang him to sleep. But the staff swore no one matched his description, and sometimes the night guards heard it too. The faint sound of a music box playing from the east wing, where the chapel used to be. One guard, new to the job, laughed it off. He followed the sound one evening, recording with his phone for fun. The video ended abruptly when his flashlight caught a group of children standing at the end of the hall. Their faces were calm, eyes dark and distant. One of them stepped forward and said, "Miss Mara says it's bedtime." The phone was found still recording. The guard never was. The final record a year later. An anonymous envelope arrived at Detective Nolan's desk. Inside, a flash drive. No note. He hesitated, then plugged it in. One video file. Timestamp, 02:13 a.m. The footage showed the new orphanage's east hallway. Everything pristine, new paint, clean floors, soft fluorescent lights. The camera moved shakily as if held by someone breathing hard. It stopped at a door, red, new paint, but unmistakable. From inside came a faint knocking, 3 slow taps, then a child's voice, clear and near. "Do you remember us?" The screen went black. Nolan sat there for a long time, staring at the reflection of the paused frame. The word St. Vincent's glowed faintly in the corner of the image, and in that faint light, he thought he saw the outline of someone standing just behind him. Small, patient, waiting. He turned off the monitor. Outside his office window, rain began to fall, slow, steady, like tiny knuckles against glass. Last entry weeks later, the cleaning crew found Nolan's desk abandoned. His badge lay on top of an old case file labeled St. Vincent's Orphanage, 1976. Inside the folder, someone had slipped a recent photo, children standing in front of the new building. At the far left, a woman stood behind them. Gray dress, pale smile, and beside her, holding her hand, Mara Holt. Neither appeared in any official record of the event. That night, the lights in the new St. Vincent's flickered for exactly 13 seconds. Down the hallway, one of the younger children stirred in his sleep, smiling faintly as a familiar lullaby began to play from somewhere unseen. Outside, the storm quieted. Inside, silence breathed, and from behind the red door came the soft, unmistakable sound of a child's laugh, echoing through the dark. The forgotten children were never gone.